Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock was the most accomplished United States Marine Corps sniper of the Vietnam War, where he accumulated 93 confirmed kills and probably several times that number in probables. From his boyhood days, he learned to master the rifle, whether it was squirrel hunting in his native Arkansas or after joining the Marine Corps at age 17 when he set a new record at Cherry Point for high-powered rifle shooting. He went on to become the Pacific Regional Champion for the United States Marine Corps. In 1965, he won the coveted Wimbledon Championship at Camp Perry, Ohio. And incidentally, talk about pressure, the Commandant of the Marine Corps was watching him shoot. Now, after serving in Vietnam, based on his many lessons learned during 2 tours, he helped establish the current Marine Corps sniper training program at Quantico, which is respected not merely within the U.S. sniping community, but worldwide. If there is today an Alvin York of our era, it is Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock.
White feather.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Kind of a trademark. When I picked it up, at that time in Vietnam, all the troops was wearing garbage on the dog tags. Peace symbols, right? We need peace symbols. And all kind of garbage. Grenade pins, all kind of mess in their hats and stuff. Well, I picked it up. Why I picked it up was because I was just going to the bad guys, see? And the snipers don't do this. Not supposed to do it. But I was kind of a very belligerent individual, I guess, as a sniper. And kind of like to flaunt my authority, I guess.
What specifically did you do in your platoon in Vietnam that got that 7th Marine Sniper Team active again? What did you do?
Got in a lot of trouble, does that count? Because I knew what snipers were, I knew how snipers were utilized and how they should be utilized and employed and everything. And I stirred a big stick, that's all, as a staff sergeant. But I knew, and I stayed in a lot of trouble, regimental sergeant major, but it takes that. It takes that. Don't be afraid of your job. Don't be afraid of your job. My job was a platoon sergeant for 7 Marine Sniper platoons, which was platoon sergeant and officer in charge. Because I never saw my officer in charge. It was paperwork. And
I think I recall that you invited the sergeant major to be a member of your platoon.
I did that, tried to get him on my side. Tried to get the sergeant major on my side. Because I was training. And when they sent them out, I went out and monitored them. See, they were doing things right. And we had 72 confirmed kills in 1 month, which is more than a whole dead gun battalion at that time. And I had a very minimal amount of people. Less than TO, that's for sure.
You, talking about confirmed kills, you're officially accredited for 93 confirmed enemy.
Yes, sir.
But what about probables? We always hear about the confirmed when it comes to that kind of battalion. What about probables?
Probables, it's over 300. Over 300. And a whole gob of WIAs. I missed quite a few times.
And when you miss, it becomes a learning experience?
It does. It really does. It really does. A learning experience. If you miss a shot, there's got to be a reason somewhere. And you evaluate the shot, evaluate yourself, evaluate what's going on around you, and then you find out why. Then you find out why.
Which sounds like it falls back on a sniper being intelligent and analytical.
Definitely. I don't know what analytical is that word, but intelligent. Got to be very intelligent. I am not the most intelligent man in the world, but I can figure that stuff out.
One of your famous encounters was a counter sniper engagement in which you had to outthink a very professional North Vietnamese sniper.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you tell me that story?
Well, it's just that he was doing a bad job. this North Vietnamese sniper was sent down there to get me, and which I really didn't appreciate. And he was doing a bad job on the hill. They killed a gunnery sergeant right outside my door with my hooch. And I watched him die. And took a vow right then. I was going to get him somehow or another. And I left Vietnam the first time with 86 confirmed and the whole gob of probables. And I figured I was a little bit better than what they were. So, just a smidge, because I was still alive. And got John Burke when he started shooting another time. I got John Burke, who was my partner, and we went out. And no, it wasn't John, it was another partner. And we went out, and we trailed him. I trailed him. As a team leader, I trailed him. Very cagey, very smart individual. And I figured he was close to being as good as I was, but there ain't no way. Ain't nobody that good. So, and you got to think like that too. You got to think like that. And I made a mistake. I fell on an old rotted tree, and he made a shot and hit my partner's canteen. And Burke and I both thought he was hit because all the warmness running down over his legs and stuff. And I noticed the hole in his canteen. You ain't hurt. Yeah, you ain't hurt. Just you killed the devil out of your canteen. That's all. And we moseyed around and mingled around, and he started running. The bad guy started running now. And we worked around to where I was in his old spot. He was in my old spot, which was a bad thing for him because he was facing the sun by that time. That was afternoon by then. And the sun glinted off his lens of the scope, I guess, and which I didn't know at that time. But I saw the glint. I shot it where the glint was. And it just happened to be the right time. And by looks of things, I was just the quickest on the trigger, otherwise they'd kill me.
How do you know that?
Excuse me?
How do you know that otherwise he would have killed you?
Oh, how do I know he would have killed me? Because I shot right through his scope, right straight through the scope, didn't touch the sides. Didn't touch the sides. And it didn't do his eyesight no good in that side either.
Well, talking about the support of the spotter and how well he too has to be able to shoot.
Yes.
Let's talk about that 5-day engagement.
Oh, no, that was a doozy. They just had the misfortune of coming up against us. And
It was a whole company. Right?
the whole company, North Vietnamese, brand spanking new. Uniforms were new and everything. And they had no communications, which is a mark in our favor. They had no support. And we saw them come right straight down the middle of the valley, right straight, well, 10 at our side. And I dumped the officer in front. My observer dumped the one in the back, which, you know, they had no leaders except one more. There was one more. And he chickened out after we dumped about 3 or 4 and took off running, which not conducive to good health. You don't run across rice paddies very fast, that's for sure. And he didn't last long. And then you had nothing but a bunch of hamburgers out there. That's all you had. And nobody in charge. And they were young, hard-charging go-getters, and Ho Chi Minh's big boys, I guess. And so it went on and on and on and on. And I had on-call artillery at all times, when I was that far away. I called on-call that night for flares. And they kept on going all night long. And I heard tell that later, afterwards, and I heard years afterwards, that the cannoneers were fighting against one another to shoot this sucker. Yeah, that's camaraderie. You know, you got to have help. You gotta have help. The decision I made was because they had no leaders, and they were just milling around, nobody in charge, so to speak. And so I made a decision after 3 shots. After 3 shots, we'd fired 3. That's when the sniper leaves. 3 shots and you're gone. And they wasn't going nowhere. So there was no reason for us to go anywhere either, I thought. And so we just stayed there and had on call, and they tried to break out to the rear. And they didn't make very much sense, but they tried, and we dumped them. And come morning time, they were still there. They were still there. And we'd moved, of course. We had moved. We didn't withdraw, we just moved. And moved positions. And they tried to attack the place where we were at before the primary position. And they didn't get far either. So 3 shots and you're out of there. Mostly. You should.
This went on for, tell me how it ended, how many days it went on.
5 days and nights. 5 days and nights.
How did it end?
It ended by me calling, we was running short on groceries, short on ammo, short on about everything. And I figured it's time to get out of Dodge. And I called our own call. And they covered everything from that villa in the back of the valley, all the way forward to where we were at. And we journeyed out of there. We got out of there, thank goodness. And they captured, when the sweep team come in, they captured 1 sergeant, supply sergeant. And he didn't know what was up there, how many was up there, or what. It was deadly though. And I appreciate that. There was 1 large dike running right straight down the middle. And they were on the opposite side from us. It was about 800 yards to the water, to the river. And we had right at 600 yards to shoot in before they got to us. And kind of worked well. Rice paddies, paddy dikes work well, work real good, because that is concealment for them at that time. It was a large dike. And they tried to get behind it. And every once in a while they'd stick their head up, they'd lose their haircut.
The mission in which you probably set some kind of a record on stalking was when you snuffed that NVA general.
Mm.
And you stalked, what, 1,000 yards?
Approximately 1,000, a little over, about 1,200 actually.
1,200 yards. It took you, what, 3 days to stalk it?
3 days and nights.
Why don't you tell
And
us,
morning of the 4th day is when I
why don't you tell us
completed my
the
mission.
story from beginning to end? You were at the end of your first tour in Vietnam?
Right at the end of it. And normally, when you take on a mission like that, when you're that short, you forget everything. You know, tactics, the whole ball of wax, and you end up dead. And I did not want none of my people dead. And so I took the mission on myself. And figuring I was maybe a little bit better than all the rest of them. Because I was the one training them all. Supposed to be better. And I come out of the tree line back there and got onto the open land, and I went to my side. I didn't go flat on my belly because I made a bigger slug trail when I was on my belly. And I wormed on my side very minutely, very minutely. I knew I had a long ways to go. Didn't want to tire myself out too much. And patrols were within arm's reach of me. I could have tripped majority, some of them. And they didn't even know I was there. I was in their backyard. I was in their backyard. And they didn't expect a one-man attack. They didn't expect that. And I knew from the first time when they was coming lollygagging by me that I had it made now. This would be good. This would be real good. So I just continued squirming along, worming along, and come many patrols, come by. There was two twin 51s on my left, two twin 51s on my right. And I could see them cooking their groceries and wishing I was there to have a little bit of it, but I was definitely hungry. I was thirsty. But you got a job to do. Can't let none of that in it. You're in your bubble, and that's all. It's your job. Your job. And crawled up on that little rise with an escape route to my right, out to the tree line. I was in between all the 51s, and which were set up for air attacks. They could. I don't believe they'd get down that far. Thank goodness. And seen all the guys running around that morning, and I dumped the bad guy. And
How far shot?
it was 700 yards, right where I had my rifle zeroed at. What I estimated to be 700 yards, and by my map, 700 yards. Where I had my rifle zeroed. And I estimated the wind, and the temperature, humidity, the whole ball of wax. Tried to run through my mind real quick. And it worked out pretty good. Worked out right fair. And then I had to get out, had to get away. When I made the shot, everybody run the opposite direction because that's where the trees were. That's where the trees were. And flashed in my mind, hey, you might have something here. So I went to that ditch, a little gully, and made it to the tree line. And about passed out when I stood up to get a little bit better speed. But had to watch out for booby traps and everything going back to my pickup point. And that squad had been there every day to the pickup point. And they got complacent. They come to pick me up when I was there. They come to pick me up, it sounded like a herd of dump trucks running empty with a lot of tin cans in it.
But there was another major incident in the book as well, and that was the story of Apache.
So, I really don't like to talk about her, to tell you the truth. But every time you say something about her, I see that kid come to the wire.
That was the kid that she cut up.
Yes, Skint. She was I don't like to use bad words. She was a very bad woman, a very bad woman. Had her own sniper platoon down there, and I think they were out to get all my snipers, myself, everybody. And she had been there because we took over from 3rd Division, and she had been there when the 1st Division took over. And she just continued to march. She had been torturing a lot of people prior to us getting there. And that was a primary objective, kind of, for me. And I was in her own backyard. She was tromping out of mine, and I didn't like that. And she skinned that one kid that she'd captured all night, half the next day. And he come running to the wire, happened to be on a bunker, and was observing and listening. And Jesus. That morning she turned him loose. He come to the wire and died right in the wire.
This one was personal.
This one's a very, very personal. Very personal. And when I got that lady, which was a kind of a happenstance, you know, E.J. Land, Captain E.J. Land and I, Captain E.J. Land was my officer in charge. And he and I were out on the position, and we saw a hamburger coming across. And I think I had the rifle that time. And we were in the midst of switching rifles, and I saw him, E.J. saw him, and we were kind of wrestling for the rifle, you know. Give me that, no, give me that, I'll take a shot. You know, it was comedy of errors, all it was, comedy of errors. And of course, bad guy got away. And he must have went back and told his boss, and there was a little knoll there, and we had on-call Artie. Oh, I always had that. And saw her coming, saw the group coming, and about 5 of them. and saw her squat down to tinkle. And I ascertained it was her. And EJ called in Artie, turned her loose. And they called him behind them, actually. And they run right down that little knoll, right towards us. Mistake. And the guy in front of her was trying to get her to stop, because they were running right towards us where they'd seen us before. He trying to get her to stop. She didn't, but I stopped her. And I put on one extra for good measure, because that was the best shot I ever made, I think. The best shot I ever made.
We have one more major encounter to discuss, and that is, it was unique to you, and it's also still a pretty unique shooting environment. 1,000 yard plus shooting with a 50 cal. Why don't you tell us the story about your 2,500 yard shot?
Well, I was sent down on a mission. Captain Land had the Seabees, I believe, make a mount to fit the rifle, the inertial, off of my rifle scope, which would also fit a 50 cal. They had a ramp for it. And I was sent down primarily for that, to see how it would work. And I observed, it took me about a full day to get I put this young corporal on the road, and I took the weapon over. We were elevated on top of a small mountain. You know, bad guys all over. You didn't even send a patrol off that mountain, because they get eaten alive. And I was there for 3 days. Movements, who was moving, when they were moving, and the whole ball of wax, observing. And at the end of the third day, I zeroed it. It took me 3 shots to zero it. Closest range was 1,000 yards. Furthest range was 2,500. And just so happened, right where I zeroed at 2,500, here comes home with a hamburger. Here comes home with a hamburger. And he stepped right across the spot where we zeroed at. And he bent over to brush his teeth, get a drink, whatever he's doing. And I pushed the butterflies, and if he hadn't stood up, I'd went over his head. But, as luck would have it, he stood up. He caught that chunk of lead.
Any other 50 cal shot? How much did you actually have a chance to shoot the 50? I know that 2,500 yard shot was...
I got three at that range, approximately that range. Confirmed, because there was officers up there all the time. You know, I wanted to be part of it. And one kid, who was a mule, what they call a mule, who was carrying weapons, and on his bicycle. I meant to shoot in front of him. It must have been a pull shot or something, but I knocked the bicycle right up under him. Shocking, right? And he went down, the rifles went down, and he come up that quick, that quick. Shoot. Didn't know what he was shooting at. He was just hammering around. Stuffed the magazine in it and was charging. And that's when I shot the second round.
What kind of thoughts go into planning a shot at that distance? It's so far away.
That's kind of like shooting 1,000 yards, actually. And you got to consider the weight of the bullet, 730 grains, which the wind don't affect it that much. And I was elevated. And there wasn't much wind. I think I pulled that shot, and I can't blame it on anything else. Really. Wasn't no hurricane or hurricane or whatever.
Anyone who's ever fired the 50 caliber Browning heavy machine gun has been impressed by the incredible ballistics of that slug. Think for a second. Carlos Hathcock took that same cartridge, fired it single shot, and engaged a target, well, not merely engaged, neutralized a target at 2,500 yards in Vietnam, without question the longest kill by a sniper of the entire war. What was it like setting up the modern original sniper school at Quantico?
It was a chore. Let me tell you, it was a chore. At that time, I wasn't in very good health, and I was kind of deteriorating, kind of, sort of. And it was a chore. That's the major thing. It was a chore. And the major thing was getting the powers that are in the different units to realize how good a sniper was for the unit. And they still don't. They still don't realize it.
I was just about to ask, that's a perennial problem. It's a continuing problem for
They
commanders.
still do not realize it. Still do not.
So what can an individual sniper do to help commanders use them correctly?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I really don't know. I have no idea how a sniper could portray to the powers that are above him the good things that a sniper could do, unless he's utilized properly by the powers that are, the company commander, battalion commander, division commander. And that's the only way you're going to do anything, is to teach the powers that are on top that will utilize these snipers prior to using them. That's the only way you're going to do it. I tried that in Vietnam, and my God, it worked. It worked.
But they had to score perfect in a 20 shot record fire out to 1,000 yards, or
Out to and including 1,000 yards. What I would do, okay? But the Marine Corps didn't go along with it. Did not go along with it. Like I say, they said I got to have some fudge factory. And that was hard. I was a hard man to work for. A very hard man to work for. But they say I was fair. I like to think that.
well, sniper instructors like to come up with their own little, wouldn't go as far as say tricks, but training techniques. Like some will take a quarter and put it on a rifle barrel for a dry fire drill. Others, like I've used before, is shooting under stress. I like to stress people up.
Definitely, me too.
And I'll do things like pour ice water down their neck and shout strange words in their ears, or play rock music or something.
Bob Senator or something other, huh?
Well, or just, if they like country western, I'll play rock.
Yeah.
If they like classical music, they listen to rap or whatever. But what kind of tricks like that do you use in training?
All I do is run her to death. I run her to death right straight back to the fire line. With all their gear. All their gear. That's the only kind of stress I can put them under. And that stresses them out right good. Sometimes I have them do 15 to 30 push-ups. And then run. Like I say, I'm a hard man to work for. I have very high standards for my people. Very high.
Of your law enforcement students today, what percentage pass your training?
Percentage, maybe 70. Maybe 70. Maybe 70. I like to have 20 people in my schools, and so I can handle it. The chief here lets me take 2 instructors on the road with me 2 times a year, and I get one here. So 20 instructors is about all we can handle. It's about all we can handle. 20 students, I mean.
What kind of traits would you look for in a person that was looking to become a sniper? What would be the most valuable traits that you would need?
I would look at somebody quiet and knowledgeable, able to learn, very highly intelligent, a knowledge of field craft, knowledge of weapons, and able to ascertain whether they can observe and get to observing down in writing.
What about patience? Tell me about a sniper and patience.
Patience, you gotta have the utmost patience. I've laid in 3 days in one spot, just observing. Just observing. You have to have an extreme amount of patience, extreme amount. And I put them through the ringer in my school, that's for sure.
Oh.
I set them out and let them stay 4 or 5 hours. I go out and have something to eat, have a drink while they're out there. And they have to be observing everything that goes on, everything. I would put out little giddy gappers for them to observe, to see. And I would do stuff, definitely do stuff.
How does someone stay alert when they're observing for that long?
Well, it's, how do you observe that long? Well, there's a team, there's 2 people, and both have to be trained exactly alike in order to accomplish the whole mission, And I suggest for the counter snipers here, in the United States, 20 minutes on observing. That don't mean that the sniper's laying there looking through the scope, because you'll burn out too. See? You have one observer, one sniper, primary sniper. So both of you's not looking through the scopes. No, just one of them. That's the observer. That's his job. That's his job. Your job is to eliminate the situation. So they flop every 20 minutes. So both of you don't get burned out. See? It was the same way in Vietnam, 30 minutes. 30 minutes over there.
What makes a good shooter? What are the kinds of skills and controls and attributes?
Really got to have a good head on your shoulders, be able to absorb everything that's going on around you. In competition shooting, you have to absorb everything going on around you, and to bring your skills up to the utmost. And I call it getting in my bubble. Nothing but pure, absolute, utter concentration on the job you're doing at the time, which is what I did when I was sniping. I learned it when I was competing. And I won the Wimbledon. I did not know at that time I had won it until somebody's near about stepping on my back, people policing up my brass. You know, I'm thinking, what's going on? What is going on? Did I lose? What? I didn't know. I had no idea. And people pat me on the back, and it's nothing but concentration, pure concentration. And that's what I used in Vietnam as a sniper.
Do you have any tricks you use to maintain your focus and your concentration? It's got to be hard laying there for a long time.
There are no tricks. There are no tricks. Utter, absolute, complete concentration on the job you're doing at the time so you complete the job. And complete that job successfully.
You just described your bubble and the experience at Wimbledon. Now that bubble is you closing off the rest of the world so you're focused, concentrating on just one thing. What are you thinking about when you're actually looking through the crosshairs?
Going through the principles, basic principles of marksmanship, the basics. I carry a card in my back pocket that all my counter snipers have to carry because I issue it to them, which are the basics for scope rifle shooting. And it will also carry over to iron sight shooting. So, me being in charge, so to speak, I have to carry 2 because I make them carry 1, see.
How do you plan the shot, each specific step about planning when to take it, where to place the bullet? How does that go?
How do I plan a shot?
Yeah, placing the shot.
Placing a shot?
Timing it.
You know where you have to shoot the bad guy to do him in right quick, supposedly. And that's in the head, and I ain't gonna do that for 700 yards. Ain't no way in a cat hair. So I just ascertained the conditions that I was in, what was happening between myself, the target, and just make better deductions from there.
So what do you aim at?
Seemed to work.
Try the head. Where did you decide to shoot him and why?
A sniper, a military sniper, is an area shooter. is an area shooter. And you got 19 inches from your waist to your chin that you can shoot at and 12 inches across that you can shoot at. So, got a big space there. Got a big space. And to get everything correct, you should hit him right in the middle. You're harshing out on the left. Where everybody says this, I think it's right in the middle. Right in the middle.
What about dry fire?
Oh yes, got to dry fire. You got to dry fire. You really do. You really have to dry fire to. I used to drive my wife crazy when I was competing in the living room. We lived in a small apartment down in Denver, North Carolina, and in the living room, I'd be dry firing, standing up offhand or prone, so I called a position I wanted to work on at that time. Hour upon hour upon hour, making sure everything was right.
Would you advocate that as, well, what other kinds of practice would you advocate other than dry firing? Is dry firing probably the most important one for shooting?
Yes, prior to shooting, dry firing is magnificent, magnificent. It's a chore. It's another chore, that's all. And because you're there, nothing's happening around you. Maybe the TV set's on. And you got to concentrate on what you're doing. You have to concentrate on what you're doing. Trying to make yourself better. Make yourself better. And dry firing is a major part of it. It's a major part.
Is shooting overall what you would call a fragile skill that you have to, you could lose easily?
Shooting is a deteriorating skill. A deteriorating skill. If you do not practice it often enough, it'll go away from you. And there ain't no way to get it back unless you continue shooting. That's like here with Virginia Beach. My counter snipers in Virginia Beach, we train once a week. Once a week. So they're on the front lines all the time. And so to keep them from losing their skills, we train once a week. And the chief goes along with me.
What do you think is the minimum practice that the rifleman needs to perform sniper quality marksmanship?
Sniper quality marksmanship, what the minimum, I would say once a week. Once a week. And quality training with a quality coach, not just going out on your own and saying, oh, I'm going to do this today. Have somebody programming you. And do not let you know what's going to happen when you get there. See? Sometimes we don't shoot at all. None at all. We practice movement, camouflage, concealment, everything that a sniper needs to know. We practice that at different times. But it's all deteriorating. If you don't practice it, it'll go away from you.
If there was one thing that was the most important thing that you really need to be successful, you know, as a military sniper, what would that one thing really be?
Observation. Observation. Because that is primarily your job. Primarily. And the shot is secondary. Shot is secondary because all the intelligence you gather as a military sniper or a police sniper, counter sniper, is very pertinent to the situation. And so you've got to report it back to the powers that are. And the shot is almost a secondary thing. If you see somebody that is what you estimate to be high ranking and he's leading the troops and this and that, then you might dump him on the spot. But
How do you pick your target priorities as a military sniper?
Well, leaders, operators of crew-served weapons, operators of communications. That's three primaries. That's the three primaries. And that's all I ever picked on. I didn't pick Homer Smuckatelli out there because that wasn't my job. It wasn't my job.
As far as training Marines or training SWAT snipers, what are the differences?
Huge difference. Like I told you, the police mainly have no discipline. They haven't got the proper discipline, I'll put it that way. They haven't got the proper discipline until they go through my school. for 2 weeks. Then they've got it. Then they've got it. Because that's one thing I harp on. One thing I harp on in my school. Discipline. You got to have discipline. They had to produce that shot, lay there for hour upon hour upon hour, changing with your partner, and still be able to produce one shot.
There's a lot of misconception about what motivates a sniper, about what kind of character there is in the man behind the rifle. Carlos Hathcock gives us some insights on that. What does being a sniper mean to you?
Just a function of a unit. Like being a truck driver or person that carries the groceries. It's just another entity of the overall unit. Is the way I look at it now. A lot of people didn't look at it that way, but
Well, but a lot of people think a sniper is an elite.
no, they're not
necessarily
elite.
one who thinks he's better than the rest.
They're not elite. They just have a certain job to do, like a helicopter driver,
Sure.
or and a helicopter pilot has a certain job to do. Snipers have a certain job also, but they protect the land units.
What do you think about the psychological effect of snipers?
Psychological effect is great. It's very, very great and very harmful to the bad guys. Very harmful. Very harmful. Because it denies them movement. See, it denies them movement. Restricts their movement. And that's which is good for land units. Very good for land units.
I think of the example of that company you kept pinned for 5 days. What do you think the psychological effect was on them?
Well, like that supply sergeant said, the NBA supply sergeant that was captured, he said he didn't know how many was up there or what was up there, but it was deadly, whatever it was. Well, like I said, we kept moving. Kept moving, shoot a few shots and move. And it's a very, very deteriorating effect, which I have seen in my little tenure in combat. One shot will put a whole company down, a whole company. If you don't know how to combat that one shot, you're in deep kimchi.
How were you, as a Marine sniper, greeted by other Marines when they had an enemy sniper problem?
Oh, we were greater than Oreo cookies nearby. We're greater than Oreo cookies. Till then, nah, no. We were nothing but assassins. Killers. On the loose. And after eliminated the situation, we were still killers, assassins. See, only when you're needed. Only when you're needed are you the good guy. Only when you're needed. Seems like. Because that's training of the powers that are. They look down on snipers, and everybody else looks down on snipers. Because we have a job, people down below do not understand that job, do not understand what can be done for them by snipers.
Part of the people you've trained, police, military, etc.
Mm-hmm.
How do the city boys stack up with the country boys?
Ain't no comparison. Ain't really no comparison.
Country boys,
Country boys are magnificent. They're much more better. They're more tuned into it than what a sidewalk man is. Standing around on the street corner spitting in the gutter.
But how about a city boy who's done a lot of hunting? Doesn't hunting develop a lot of those skills?
It does. Hunting develops a lot of good skills. A lot of good skills, if it's done properly. Yeah, I got a city boy here that's one of my best friends. But he wasn't able to go in the military. And I've seen him. I've had him as an aggressor on some of our operations. And the guy is good. He is very, very good. I was looking for him with a video camera one time. Couldn't see him. I said, stand up, Dead Blaster, so I can see you. Knew nothing about military camouflage. Nothing. But he's a good deer hunter. Fantastic. fantastic deer hunter, good tracker.
How is hunting people different from hunting deer? Is it pretty much the same?
There's no difference, no difference. I watch the Discovery Channel here and get a lot of good tips from the animals for training or other day.
Like what?
Moving the animals. If you stare at an animal, he's going to look at you. He's going to look at you. We're animals. That's all we are as animals. Call ourselves human beings, Homo sapiens, which is very good. That's good literary stuff. But we're animals. That's all we are as animals. And we work the same way they do, the exact same way. And by watching animals on Discovery Channel, I find out a lot from my training here. A lot.
What about first light and last light?
First light and last light's the best time there is, because they're going out after a good night's rest and they're all hee-hawed and tap dancing, whistling, smoking cigarettes and pipes and whatevers. That's the best time there is. And when they're coming back in the evenings, that's another good time, because they're tired, been on patrol, they're tired, lollygagging, spitting in the gutter and all that stuff, or spitting in a rice paddy, and not paying attention to detail. Same thing in the morning, not paying attention to detail.
So it's like human habits that you use against them.
No, human habits are definitely against you. And I tell you one thing, either in our service or any other person's service, leaders love to point. They love to point. Our guys do, their guys do, and they'll say, Homer Jethro and Snot Rag over there, I want you to go over here, okay? That's a wrong move, because you're liable to catch something weighty. I've seen that numerous times.
Is there anything that you would like to say? Think about that audience. Anything that you would like to say about being a sniper, or having been in combat, or the Marine Corps, or is it a bit of advice, something that you would like to say?
Okay. For the police snipers, continue your training. Continue training on the certain aspects of sniping. You cannot do it too much. So do it as much as you can. Put all your mind and body into it when you're training. Don't just go out to be training. Be quality training, quality. All the instructors out there, if you just teach them to shoot, then woe be unto you, because it's their lives of hostages, and lives of everybody else around them. The entry team, they support the entry team. And for the military, pay attention to detail. Pay attention to detail, train. Like I say, you're on the area shooting. But you have to make each and every shot the best one there is. And for counter snipers, you are not area shooting. You're pinpoint, precision, surgical shooting. You have to be very good. One spot you're going to hit, and that's all. To eliminate the situation without reflex.
Well, yeah, I have one more question while we're talking about shots. You know, a lot of people talk about the resolve to pull the trigger when it's necessary. You know, that is something, you know, the sniper obviously has to have. Is this something you're born with, or a skill somebody can be taught?
I don't believe it's a skill. I don't believe it's a skill to be taught. It has to be an ingrained, like you're a hunter or something, and you're able to dump a deer, rabbit, squirrel, whatever the game is. You're going to take home to eat, and if you miss it, you don't eat that night. See? So it's got to be ingrained. It's got to be in there. You got to work it that way. And another living, breathing human being. I did not like to kill him. I really didn't like to kill him. But to pit myself against another living, breathing human being who could kill me just as quick as I could him, that was the challenge of it. That was the challenge.
How would you like to be remembered?
But a pork roast.
As
That's an Arkansas man, you know.
That's it.
You're a very famous person, you know, in your field in that. And when you're gone, how would you like to be looked at or remembered? Would you like your legacy?
Just that I did a good job. I did a good job. That's all I want. That's all I want. That's all I want. I got no medals of recognition, really. And training now, I got training medals, but no other medals, which I didn't really ask for. And nobody asked for them. But you got to have a good CO, I guess, or something other. And you wasn't even kimchi like I was. But my CO was always stayed in kimchi, because I was in kimchi all the time. But I was just trying to do my job. Just trying to do my job. That's all I want to know. That's all I want. Be recognized as somebody, a Marine, trying to do his job.
When we talk to Carlos Hathcock, it's not theory, it's experience. Gunnery Sergeant Hathcock was the most accomplished Marine Corps sniper of Vietnam, the founder of the sniper school at Quantico, and a decade-long instructor of snipers. What he has to say is of immeasurable